First off, before we even get started, the game looks gorgeous, the game runs great, and the game has the roach. So that might make the decision already easy for you. But what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Today we're talking about if Kirby Air Riders, Nintendo's November Black Friday big release, is worth it if you're a single rider, if you're a solo player, if you have no friends. I've been playing Kirby Air Riders exclusively by myself. Now that is a big ask for a game that has a heavy multiplayer component and a heavy party focus and feel. Now, a lot of people have been loving this game since back on the GameCube, and they're very eager to play this new version. A lot of people are also excited for a Switch 2 game, and plenty of others have heard the enthusiasm and said, should I jump on board? So I'm gonna fill you in on everything you need to know, especially if, like me, you often don't have a whole group to come over and play with you. All right, Kirby Air Riders is $70. It's out physically on the game card, not a game key card. It's just straight up on the cartridge. That is a thumbs up. And this is a Sakurai joint, so the entire presentation, all of the sound effects, the music, the graphics, the menus, the UI, the unlocks, all of it is beautiful, right? From a just bird's eye view, this game is very well made, and there is quite a bit of content here for a racer in particular. The big question I think you're gonna need to sift through in this video is, do you already have Mario Kart World? Do you have space for another racer? Do you wanna play it mostly by yourself with other people? How's that gonna factor in? And is it worth $70? Now, $70 is a pretty average price point in today's gaming economy, but I will say that $70 feels like an expensive amount when I play this game. And that's not to say that the game doesn't have quality. I'm just saying I think you're gonna have to think about 70 big ones going towards this title. Now, as a single player, I've got access to all the modes because they almost all have online, except the single player mode, which is single player. So it really is a nice suite of options for a solo player. I will warn you that already on launch day, I had some long waits to find matches. We haven't even dove into the game content itself, but that is worrisome because it's launch day. You'd think there'd be a ton of people playing, easy finding of matches. I don't know how long this game will last for, how long it will go for. Surely it will peak this weekend, but then how long does that sort of string out? Does it have a long ride or a short ride? You're gonna have to think about that, because if you don't have friends to do things with locally, you're gonna be relying on the online community, and those lobbies, those wait times, kind of annoying. Fine if you're doing other things, but if you're just focused solely on Kirby Air Riders, a bit annoying. All right, I think we got all of the basics out of the way. The main modes that you're gonna enjoy here are Air Ride, which is the Kirby racing mode that you probably know and have seen in most of the trailers. City Trial, which is the mode that the longtime fans swear by. 5 minutes of mass chaos in an arena, and then you go complete a challenge against a subset of those other players. Top Ride, which is a brand new top-down mode, and Road Trip, the single-player mode that includes cutscenes and, goodness gracious, VO.
Crash landed within a barren, isolated region of Popstar. Unable to move itself, Zora could only surrender to the passage of time.
Can we just take a moment for voice acting in Kirby Air Riders? Not in Pokemon, Kirby Air Riders, okay? We have voice acting in Kirby Air Riders, and if you think about it, Nintendo might be coming around to this. Pokemon Company, maybe not so much. Nintendo might be coming around to this. DK Bonanza, Pauline, giving her opinion, making it known. And now in Kirby Air Riders, a narrator telling you about this tragic tale of this rock vehicle thing that inevitably turns evil. But let's start with Road Trip, because that surprised the heck out of me. Road Trip is a racing single player mode, but to me it's much more akin to WarioWare, but with Kirby, and 2 minutes instead of 60 seconds, or maybe a minute and a half instead of 30 seconds, right? WarioWare really short, Kirby Air Riders short. Now, Road Trip takes you on a literal road, which I thought was very beautiful. Not menu-based, but literal road, and you pick different challenges along the way. There'll be races, there'll be top rides, there'll be button challenges where you have to score points by running over buttons, collecting as much food as you possibly can, defeating a big enemy, boss battles, and then sort of strange RPG super mega ultra light scenarios where you have to pick, like, do you want a heart, a spiny, or do you want a crocodile? And then those items will interact with the end boss. That's not much of a boss, it's more of like just like a storybook, choose your own adventure. And then you're on to the next road, and it shows you how there was 4 different paths you could have taken, but because you had the heart and you befriended the big willowy wisp blower guy, he loved you, he dropped food, and now you're in a candy type land. It's actually a really interesting mode, and the fact that the individual events are so bite-sized keeps it fun, fresh, and I think with great flow for a single player mode. I enjoyed the heck out of this one because not only does it bring you some story from the cutscenes and some interesting, beautiful Sakurai brain work, but it also allows you to unlock a ton of things and progress through the major completionist portion of this game, which is screens of unlocks. You're popping out little squares of pictures, and as you do, you're unlocking decals for your license, you're unlocking different licensees, you're unlocking different characters, you're unlocking different vehicles, you're unlocking stickers, things that can be used to customize, and then things that can be used to expand your roster of both vehicles and the riders themselves. There's also rest stops along the way where you'll pick up an extra boost, and just like City Trial, you are building your vehicle as it goes. That's a huge point that you need to remember about Road Trip. You start with a basic bah humbug little vehicle that barely can go, and by the end, you're at a level 50, level 70, level 90 vehicle. All right, each road is broken down into like 5, 6, 7, 8 segments, and then it allows you to save and move to the next road, and you can kind of just keep going and going and going. If you die, it's not punishing, right? This is Nintendo doing roguelite in the lightest sense of the word, because you can pay coins that you earn throughout Road Trip to retry an individual level, and on normal difficulty, it is kind of a cakewalk. It's pretty easy, enough challenge to keep it interesting, but it's pretty darn easy. I just love the bite-sized nature and the fact that it's constantly changing it up. It reminds me a lot of this one birthday party I had where we rented Sonic Shuffle. I had a couple friends come over, and we just enjoyed the heck out of a different Mario Party experience. Yeah, it might have been mediocre. Yeah, the Sonic cast isn't as fun as the Mario cast, but there was something quirky and clever about experiencing a bunch of bite-sized interactions with different characters, different ideas, and different games. And that's kind of how I describe Road Trip, although I'd say it's a bit better than mediocre. I think that the individual events, whether it's top ride, races with one lap, or like I said, defeating enemies, defeating each other, challenge-based, they're pretty fun, and that so far is my favorite part of the game. Which is odd because that's not the main part of the game. The main part is a multiplayer online focus. And we'll start City Trial. I still don't fully enjoy this mode. Again, I might be terrible at this game. Maybe I just don't get it. But so often in this mode, I find myself trying to figure out if I did something wrong or if the game just decided that it was going to go this direction. There is so much chaos, and as a single player person, without voice chat, without others to bounce ideas off of or bounce banter off of, or, you know, just have a little bit of back and forth, it feels very chaotic in a way that isn't rewarding. I don't really enjoy City Trial, and there's a part of me that wants to get better at it just so I can say I did, but it's hard to get better when better, what does that mean? Because oftentimes at the end of City Trial, you're picking one of 4 battle stadiums to go into for a mini game that is, yeah, brought straight out of Road Trip, or Road Trip brings them straight out of City Trial, and that is what you'll be competing in. So if you built a fast vehicle, you'll pick something that caters to a speed type challenge. If you build a strong vehicle, you'll do like a knockout challenge. Sometimes though, it just throws all of you into the same arena, and it will alert you to that before it happens so you can kind of cater your build. I find the controls and the arena for City Trial, the city, to be kind of just clunky and not working great for me. I know a lot of others love it, but for me it doesn't work great. On the other hand, I think Top Ride is genius. Top Ride reminds me a lot of bite-sized games I've seen in Mario Party, or even just as little slot car racers on stuff like PSN or the eShop. I thoroughly enjoy this mode, and I think it's my favorite way to race because it provides you a big perspective of the course, and it still looks really good. It slows things down to a point where you feel like you can boost into those turns, and I do feel like I have more control over the vehicle. You have 2 modes of control. Either you can use like left and right to turn and rotate, or you can have free control where whichever direction you point, that's the direction your character goes. And it's the same characters, the same vehicles, the same all of that, just from a top-down perspective. And the races are bite-sized, they're short, they're quick, and I think they're super fun. But again, what I'm describing here is more diversion type mode. So when you're thinking $70, Road Trip is decently fleshed out, but it's a bunch of like micro mini races, micro mini challenges. And then Road Trip, I'd say, is also mini races. Air Ride itself is the main racing mode, and I'd say if you're not gung-ho about City Trial and the more combative multiplayer, this is a racer with some battling. Now, it's very different than Mario Kart, and I don't think in any way someone would compare this to Mario Kart, because even though it's characters with fun Nintendo faces going from start to finish, it's just not the same. 6 racers, and it's very chaotic, a lot going on. The courses, though, I'd say more visually at least stunning than those in Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World looks great, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of really nice looking courses and fun things that are like, wow, this is notably improved. The road looks ridiculously solid. You can see the tire tracks. But Kirby Air Riders is a lot like Rez, or a game that's trying to just like infect your mind with crazy visuals. There's times in courses where you're just like watching Kirby go on a rail and it's absolutely bonkers what you're witnessing. Something straight out of the future and nothing really like the more grounded Mario Kart. Yeah, Rainbow Road often goes there, but Kirby Air Riders really goes there, and the courses are crazy. Not only because you're moving through them quite quickly, but because there's a lot going on and you really don't have the best control over your vehicle. Now, like I said, I might be terrible at this game. I found myself finishing in the middle of the pack more often than not. And frankly, I don't quite know what I need to do to get better. And I'd say that's my biggest frustration thus far with Kirby Air Riders, is while I enjoy some of these different modes, and while I don't enjoy some of the other modes, across the entire package, I find myself not really knowing what is causing a win or what is causing a loss. Now, oftentimes in Mario Kart, that's out of your hands, right? There'll be a blue shell that just blows everything up at the end, or someone will get a bullet bill and surge to the front. At least you kind of understand the gimmicks at play, and you know if you need to pick a vehicle with higher top speed, you want to go with more acceleration. All of those stats are present in Kirby Air Riders, but frankly, I'm not really sure what is winning and what is working. But on the other hand, I feel like maybe this is just meant to be a more crazy, chaotic, party-style racer that really needs others in the room to get the full value. Because if we're all crashing into each other and somebody pops out ahead and wins, that's fun if I'm next to you. But sat alone in my office, if I get third and I don't know why, that often feels bad. Now, the course variety, the amount of courses, all of that is great. I think the different vehicles and characters are super charming. There's a shop where you can spend miles earned through driving in this game to get new hats for your characters, new vehicles, new stickers and decals for your ID or your license. It's really nifty in terms of how much they have baked in, and Mario Kart World honestly could learn something from having a more fleshed out progression system. It's kind of funny that this game has better progression than Mario Kart World when Mario Kart World is $10 more, but I do think that if you're not a big fan of this type of racing, you will burn out on it faster than you would Mario Kart World. Now, just to go a little more in detail, you probably know this is a one-button racer. You just steer left and right, it automatically goes, and then you can boost. I found that to be at times counterintuitive. I'd be pressing forward like I do in Mario Kart, and my vehicle would be dipping into the floor and braking. I had to kind of build a new mentality and mindset for Kirby Air Riders, and once I got there, I felt like, okay, I have a better handle on things, and yet my results were still the same. I would occasionally vault to the front and get a nice easy first place win, but more often than not, I'd be right in the mix of it, down to 6th, up to 2nd, down to 5th, up to 3rd, and it didn't really feel like there was much that I could do to significantly alter the outcome. There's like this juggling act of, is this a deep game that allows me to experiment, explore, and eventually succeed, or is this a chaotic game? And I would prefer it to be the former, while I feel thus far like it's more of the latter. In terms of single player content though, the road trip mode combined with all of these online, provided there is a player base, it feels like a solid amount of content, especially if you enjoy Top Ride, Air Ride, and City Trial. You've got 3 different varieties of courses and of challenges that you can compete in, and then Road Trip puts it all together and gives you the best mishmash. I think Road Trip is by far my favorite mode and by far the way that I enjoy playing this game, but when I look at it and I say, is this a $70 title? For some people I think it would be. I do feel a lot of others are going to feel like there's not a ton here, and maybe that is a curse/blessing of the simplicity of the control scheme, but I think some people are going to feel, maybe even a lot of people are going to feel, like they don't have full control over these races and therefore burn out on it quickly. And the amount of content packed in, while Sakurai did do a great job of, like I said, throwing in hats and extras and unlockables and different courses, nostalgic courses you can unlock from the Game Pass, and City Trial that always sort of brings a new flow and feel given the different stadiums at the end of your encounter, I do feel like a lot of people are going to say, well, I kind of had my fun. I don't really fully grasp how to be good at this, and therefore I'm going to tap out. There's a lot of smashing into each other. There's a lot of using the on-screen enemies to attack your other racers. There's a lot of launching forward, and then there's times where it's like, I'm just in last place. And more often than not, that I'm just in last place feel comes in City Trial, which is part of the reason I just don't enjoy that mode, because if your vehicle is not built in the same way as others, or not to the standard that you need for the certain challenge, you're kind of just out of luck and it just sort of feels bad. While there is a good amount of content here, and while I do find the road trip mode to be super well made with great cutscenes, voice acting, cool unlocks, and just a wide variety of content that almost feels like an armada of WarioWare microgames, but done in the Kirby universe with a racing framework, and that is fun, I don't know that this game for me is a $70 package. And if I had the choice to go back and save my $70, save for Metroid Prime 4, I probably would prefer to do that than invest it into Kirby Air Riders, especially if I'm one of the 92% of Switch 2 owners that already has Mario Kart World. And like I said, two very different games. They can't really be compared because even though they're racers, they race in such different ways. I do feel for me, Mario Kart World is the better, more long-lasting experience, and I believe that more of the general Switch 2 owner will feel the same way, while Kirby Air Riders will build a very hardcore and niche community that loves it to death and champions it all the way till the end of the Switch 2 era. Some of the signs I saw early with those wait times and lobbies not filling up fast at all makes me nervous that maybe this game is not gaining as much popularity as it would have if it was a more normal racer, or if it was a Kirby game that followed more of the typical Kirby formula, being a single-player game where you moved from level to level. Sakurai definitely did a stellar job of filling this game with fun stuff for people that find it fun, but like with many games, if you don't find it fun, it's gonna feel like there's not a lot of content here, because outside of that road trip mode, which is pretty easy and you can push through pretty quickly, there's not a ton to do except the online races and the online city trial. And if you're not a big fan of Top Ride, I think it's gonna feel like it's a two-mode game with a single-player component that puts those modes together. And that might not be enough content for a lot of people, in the same way that Mario Sports titles were short on content for some Switch 1 game buyers back when those games released a few years ago. So let me know your take in the comments down below. Thus far, Kirby Air Riders, more fun than I expected, but still not reaching that level where I feel it's a must-buy, especially if you're a solo player. Maybe this game gets a lot greater if you do have a community of people that want to play it with you in the same room. I'm sure it does, in fact. But for me, I find this to be okay. And Road Trip has been really cool, and once I'm completed with that, I don't know how much more I'll dive into Air Riders, and for $70, feels a little not worth it. But let me know your take in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there, and until next time, SwitchForce out.